removing that old stuff on their mains, stop pulling it out, you know, because obviously when they're lurching about like this and you've got harness sliding up and down their neck, it's, you know, you can be pulling mains out and all sorts before you know it. So we're doing the best we can, but that's as fast as we can go. I mean, how long have they been here now, Loft?
4 weeks.
Coming up 4 weeks,
yeah,
is it?
I think so.
So, you know, I don't think they're doing bad. Staying there nice and quiet, nice and patient. This horse, the white socked horse, is on the outside here. You do. Back up. Back up. Back up. Back up. Good boy. That's a prime example with him then. Did you film that? For no reason at all he'll do that. But I reckon that's where his problem was before. He'll come round there, touch that pole with his quarters 100 times, never bother. And every now and again he'll do that.
So these two Morgans are now going as a pair. The purpose of putting Roly out the front at the start of the film was to give them a lead and to help with their confidence by letting them follow an experienced horse. So this is their first time being driven together as a pair, just to show that they'll leave the yard calmly at the walk. They're very well matched, not because they're identical in colour, but because they have almost identical strides and paces. So we're not concerned about their head carriage at this stage. We want them to go happily together without feeling restrained or confined by undue pressure on the reins.
People have often said that we should adjust our coupling reins in cases like this, but that is not correct. They don't understand what we're trying to achieve. By adjusting the coupling reins to stop the near side horse turning his head in, you would apply more pressure to the outside of his mouth, making his mouth harder on that side. Once he settles, his head will come straight to how the reins are adjusted now. The whole purpose of what we are doing is to have them soft on your hands with a little light contact and still produce horses that will answer the bit and have a good head carriage on one of our soft rubber bits.
This is the first lorry they've met. He also lets his air brakes off as they pull alongside, but if you watch the inside horse, who we've done more work with on the long reins, he responds by leaning into the offside horse. If we hadn't worked with him on the long reins, when the offside horse pushes into him, he would have shied as well, and they both would have gone right onto the pavement, onto the grass, and ended up in the hedge. So what we're showing is that they're controllable, bearing in mind they're still only being driven in soft rubber bits. We can control them without needing masses of metal in their mouths. If we'd had stronger bits in, they might have stayed on course better, but we want to improve their actual reaction to traffic and not create a false impression by holding onto them. This shows they're happy to obey voice commands without us forcing them with hard metal bits and curb chains. You can see now we're entering Stockbridge, we've got more traffic passing. This is the second lorry they've met being driven as a pair, and you can see much less of a reaction. Gaining confidence being driven together, obviously with a different horse alongside them. The offside horse was used to having Roly alongside him. So you can see now that with the traffic passing close by the horse at the standstill, his recovery rate is better. Before, he would have been barging into him violently, which would also have unsettled the near side horse. And now, even though he might have a brief startle now and again, he's soon back standing with his leg at rest on a loose rein. The driver isn't having to hang on tightly to the reins to stop them from moving. Also, bear in mind there's no groom at their heads to distract them. They're facing the problems all alone, out in front by themselves. We've also put Fletcher on the reins, so this is their first time with a different driver too, which is another big test for them. They're confident enough to listen to Fletcher, who's a different voice and a different feel on their mouths.
Yeah. Now, he could be. You know, what he's done this out there, I guarantee it. Well, as much as I could guarantee it, out there he's done that. He's come and rested his arse on there, right? And what he's done is he's probably gone to step back, either lifted up and he's fell over it, yeah? Bearing in mind, see, it wouldn't be straight going through like ours, would it? It wouldn't be horizontal, it'd be laying down on the front. So it'd only be at the eye bit, it'd be at the back, yeah? Right, so as he's come round, he's blinked it up, he's got his arse out there, they've pushed him back, he's mishandled it, could be a bit lower, he's gone down and sat on it, frightened the life out of himself. Now, what I reckon he's done, he's possibly snapped the pole at that point, yeah? Do you understand what I mean? Fell on the ground, or dropped off, snapped the point, or like that. But he's just laid on this here, we're right in the high street, right this second now, film this now as I'm doing it as I'm speaking, yeah? So the you can see the mark on his quarters where he's disturbed the hair, and when he's sat on it that hard on this padded pole. Now I reckon the only reason he's forgiving and not started kicking is the pole's padded, heavily padded. Got me meaning? So when he's gone on it, he can't quite figure out whether this is the hard lump of wood that was there, or is the, to see where I'm coming from. And that would make, I've had a couple of horses from, I had a team from the States over here, and they wanted them done on a one in his neck the other side. Now, he never had that before, did he? Got me meaning? But I mean, what I've done, I've just put the old brake on. I put the brake full on, like the front brake, like to lock it up, because right by the side of us here, I'll show them that car. This is where we were standing. Now, if you look on the road down here, film that road there, see them scratch marks down there? White mark, I don't know if you can see him because he's standing this over him. There's white marks, that's where he was scraping and fighting. Yeah, but standing here as quiet as a Christian now. He's going to take some time to get him over the traffic side of it. But it's like when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong in their heads. So they're both standing here. Yeah, oh yeah, one thing goes wrong. I mean, it's like if we see a great big lorry now. Yeah, but I mean, yesterday, I don't know, did you get that signal?
We've just literally this second got a motorhome coming past. So I'll just see if he... No, he's just had a little look, lifted his head up, but he's back standing still.
And he's
still got his leg at rest.
He's still got his leg at rest. So, away. In fact, you know, I can't do no more than that, love. You know, I'm a miracle worker.
I mean, obviously, being that close to him is obviously a big source of that. But hold on 2 seconds, let me just pass back there. Hang on.
Don't get me wrong, I don't want a round of applause. This is my job. Have a look at this here, look now. See, that's a strange old thing. That's one of them loaders. Loads, little time motorbikes coming the other way, loads of them. Yeah. Not even, you've got one ear cocked on them, but nothing, fuck all. Well, Jesus Christ, mate, he'd been climbing over the other one, and you couldn't have had the other. Now, this one here, squeaking van, right, it just moved a bit, you know, a proper old squeaking thing just went past, you know, a van with squeaky fan belt or something, and he stood his ground. I mean, before he would have been...
Some people also say you need more contact when driving a horse, but if these horses who've had a bad experience can be driven on a slack rein, then they must trust the driver and be listening to the driver, and therefore the driver must trust them. Once their confidence is built on a slack rein, then we can sort out their head carriage and start producing them for the show run. But at this stage, their head carriage is a minor issue compared to actually getting them relaxed and happy out on the roads.
So here we've got our river keeper coming up with his mower to keep the verges clear for the fishermen, and we're very pleased with that reaction because it's a very unusual vehicle coming up the road. And now we're taking them in the river, which is another big thing for their confidence. They've got to go in at speed, shows that they're willing and happy to do so. They've got all the branches snapping as they enter where it's a bit overgrown, the splash of the water, different sights, different sounds, and yet they're still controllable and happy to do what we ask them to, just on our soft rubber bits. So this shows that their own confidence in themselves is growing, and this comes from having confidence in their driver.